Do you want to stream Packard Pokes At on your iPhone or BlackBerry? Download Stitcher free today at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Packard Pokes At.
AtheismTV.
Packard Pokes At.
AtheismTV.
Packard Pokes At will also now be featured in its entirety on Atheism TV. Join us in the chat room on vonlive.tv/Packard Pokes At, live Friday nights, 9 p.m. Central Time.
You're on in 3, 2, 1.
This is Packard Pokes At, and I'm poking at your news. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another fine edition of Packard Pokes At. I am your immutable and very technically challenged host tonight, Packard Sonic. Joining us in the chat room, and join us, well, everybody from the chat room. Join us tonight is Joe Unseen.
Inagata Davida, Packard. Don't you know that I love you?
You know, Joe, I really know you do. And joining us from Michigan is your damned.
Present.
I hope so, after this long debacle to get going tonight. And joining us from the far west coast and trying to keep everything straight in the heart of Washington State is Bionic Dance.
Greetings, fellow space travelers. It's Dance.
Yes, the audio cut out a little bit, but I heard most of it.
It's awesome hearing her say that on our show.
Yes, it is. It really is. It's awesome hearing Bionic Dance saying that here on Packard Pokes At. It's just amazing.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. All right. Okay. Well, we got a lot of great stories for you tonight, so let's get going to our first topic for this evening.
Building a better future, science and technology.
If you're out there and you've used a cell phone, a computer, anything digital, and you think, well, our conversations are, kind of private. Well, someone actually leaked the story of the NSA that's been introducing themselves, to everything you know. Now, I've been seeing a lot of different things out there today that people on Facebook are saying things like, I lost my hard drive and the NSA won't give me a backup, which really sucks. Because I could have used it a number of years ago, man. At least 4 times. There's been a lot of controversy on this. The problem here is the whole story is not being told. Everybody's blaming Obama for this. Now, he does take a lot of responsibility on this, since what's going on with this is some of this has happened under his watch. A lot of this started back in the Bush era, back in 2006. With the program, it was replaced later on, but it was software that was put out by the FBI originally. It was called Carnivore back in 2005. They were searching your data streams and your IP addresses for anything that you would say online or whatever, and this goes even farther back. Now, the story about the NSA, though, getting into the traffic of AT&T and whatnot, that goes back all the way to 2006 when, guess who? George Bush was in office. Now, the Patriot Act is what opened the floodgates to these doors to all this shit. What's important here is that it's not just one president that's involved in all this. It's actually 2 presidents. To blame everything on one or the other, it's not right. They're both culpable for this. President Obama, I like him. I like the guy. But in this, he's not being very apologetic. And personally, I think he's taken the wrong career path on this. I mean, presidents have been brought down over things that have been less stupid than this. Personally, I hope it doesn't, but this isn't right. Now, what's worse, if you watch the GOP, they're saying this is the worst thing since mustard hit your best tie. Several years ago, when the GOP were fighting the Democrats on this, they were for the NSA. They were saying, hey, the NSA is great. We need to put more of this into action. You damn Democrats, you're just saying negative shit about this, and you're not a real American. And now, several years later, Obama's in charge. Oh, Obama's trying to take away your freedoms and all this other jazz. And it's like, whichever way the wind blows. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've always assumed that they were doing this all along. I mean, you hear stories that the NSA can tap any phone in the world, so I've always wondered what's stopping them from doing it here.
Right.
This is what so many privacy activists spoke out against over 10 years ago when the USA Patriot Act was getting voted on. I mean, this is the bill that Michael Moore read through a megaphone riding around Washington in an ice cream truck.
Oh, yeah.
And now, years later, some people that thumped their chest and said, "You're with us or you're with the terrorists," are crying foul, and as you mentioned, blaming the whole thing on Obama. But now, Obama has dirty hands on this.
Yes, he does.
Because he expanded it under his watch. But it shouldn't have passed to begin with.
Right.
Now, I saw something the other day on a funny note regarding this. Funny or Die made a parody PSA for this. Okay. And they said the best way we could fight this is if everybody talked like a terrorist while they're on the phone. Instead of saying like, all right, I'll see you later, I love you, say, all right, I'll see you later, I'm going to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge with a truck bomb. Bye. It's a really funny video. You should go look for it.
I've seen other things like this. I wish I could remember the website off the top of my head, but there's I think it's called Screw the NSA or something like that. I'll have to look it up. But if I find it, there'll be a link at Packard Pokes At WordPress.com.
George Takei on Facebook posted something really funny where it said it was like a screenshot of Facebook. Like you post to my friends, post to only me. Well, it said post to everybody, post to my friends and the CIA, post to only me and the CIA.
Nice. Anyway, the site, what they were doing is you send out this email because the NSA is watching emails. So it would basically flood emails with words that the NSA would be picking up, like wedding, bomb, things like that. And it would just send out
mass email them?
Yes, mass email. So it would just overload their servers. So
at this point, don't be afraid of getting red flagged because everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it. There's no escaping it. No escaping it. Dave, your thoughts?
Oh, well, I don't think we're quite living in a Orwellian society yet. I think that this is overstepping. Well, I mean, it's certainly paving the way for things that could be really bad.
Yes.
Ultimately, Obama expanded what Bush had done.
Yes, he has.
I don't think he's really done that for any other reason than at this point he can.
Yeah, well, yeah, they gave the presidential powers to him. When actually this goes back to Bush when the terrorists had attacked originally, they wanted to expand the president's powers so they could do this without being sidestepped by the Senate and the rest of the government.
Yeah, it was total shock and awe legislation in the first place.
Absolutely.
It was pushed through during a tragedy and shouldn't have been put in place. Now it is being expanded. It's being used more often. There's also obviously more technology that
absolutely
is available to our government right now. I think that part of this is also, this guy, what was his name that leaked the documents?
That would be Edward Snowden.
Snowden.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's funny, I just want to say this here real quick. He said he left went over to Hong Kong. He said where he was holed up. He says he told the paper, "I don't want to live in a society that does these sort of things. I do not want to live in a world where everything I do and say is recorded." While he was eating a ham sandwich, walking back and forth, and I told him he should be put mustard on that ham sandwich. It would have tasted much better because we could obviously see what he was doing. I'm just kidding. He wasn't. I don't know. I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
This man has a secret security clearance,
a
top secret security clearance through the government, and we really, at this point in the U.S., we have 4.2 million people.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent number I could find was from 2011, but that's quite a few people who have top secret clearances that they have to get for different jobs, and I think that it's going to be tough for people to be able to secure those in the future if there's such a worry of people leaking documents as we have with WikiLeaks and all of that sort of stuff as well. There's kind of the other side to this.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who it is. If there's a human being involved, there's going to be a leak. Actually, like I said, this goes back to the Bush era. And now there was also another gentleman who was involved in this. The disclosure of the room of the Brigham Falls assertions made earlier. Well, this is from an article back from 2006. Said earlier this year by a former AT&T worker in California, Mark Klein, who revealed that the company had installed a secret room in the San Francisco facility and reconfigured its circuits allegedly to help collect data for the use of the government. So this has been going on for a long time, people. So don't.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people have this thing in their head that it's just Obama that's doing this. I mean, and that's the way the GOP is pushing it. It's just Obama, and that's not what it is. It's a president previous to him, And yes, his hands are dirty on this. No doubt about it. Bionic Dance, your thoughts?
Well, there really isn't much I can add to what's already been said, except for two things. I mean, first of all, how can this possibly be considered constitutional? It can't.
You're right.
I mean, this clearly violates the Constitution. That's
Fourth
the
Amendment.
first thing.
Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, exactly. But the second thing is that really the NSA can't possibly be involved, can't possibly be responsible. I mean, the NSA, there's no such agency.
No, it doesn't exist, like Area 51.
Sorry, I love that joke. I can't help myself. But no, seriously, this is a horrible, horrible act.
Yes, it is.
And it should not be allowed. It really shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. You're exactly right. It goes against the Fourth Amendment. Why it's still going on?
Well, but at the same time, we are kind of moving towards a society where every fact is known about us.
Yes.
Almost. I mean, I've been looking at this Google Glass product that's coming out, and it seems like if facial recognition software comes out for us, you could know anything about anybody at a glance.
Yep, we talked about that on the show a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, so I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like that much either. But with the government spying in on you, if they're able to listen in on your phone calls, I mean, I don't even know how they store all that much data, but if they're listening in on everything you say and scanning for keywords and stuff, I mean, it's possible they could make some mistake if you say something like, I was all fired up to see this movie, but then it bombed, and the next thing you know, you're under surveillance. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's possible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And the thing is, though, part of this doesn't surprise me, because the fact is that, and you kind of hit on it right there, that as a society right now, we're giving out a lot of our information. Facebook, for example, they're neck deep into it right now. There's a lot of companies that are involved. Google is, Facebook. Now, surprisingly enough, Twitter is not. But most people nowadays, for the price of a hamburger, will give you all their personal information. So I don't understand why the NSA has to worry about collecting any of this data for any reason, actually, because people are putting everything that all about themselves on Facebook or other social media. So to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's actually not that difficult to make it, harder for people to find your personal info. If you don't have a landline phone, if all you have is a cell phone, it's actually very difficult to find your address.
Oh, yeah. Well, they'd have to... That is if you don't have your GPS turned on. And AT&T, as I recall, and any place else that has access to like an iPhone or whatever, they can reach into your phone and they could surreptitiously turn your GPS on without you even knowing about it in many cases. I'm not sure if it's the iPhone that can do this. I might be overstepping my knowledge on that. But I know a lot of cell phones, they can turn the GPS on, and then they could pinpoint right exactly where you are.
Funny, as a, mildly, I guess, prominent YouTuber, at least in the atheist scene, I've certainly had people try to drop my docs, and they've only been able to find an address I had from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
it's
and
hard.
that's largely because of the fact that I've only had a cell phone.
Right. Yeah. That's and especially if you have like a burner phone, and those are the best kind to have if you are trying to maintain as low key as possible in this digital age we live in. A burner phone would be your best bet. But otherwise, most people who are have their asses tied to a computer like mine, it's not. If someone was really desperately looking for me, I'm sure they could find me. Joe.
I've been posting your address to Muslim sites all over the Middle East. So,
well, I also saw the flowers you left with. It said signed Joe. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, well, let's get moving into our next topic for this evening.
It's the Onion Radio News.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
There was a woman out there. She's driving along, doing about 95 miles an hour out in the UK. She hits a bicyclist, and then she goes onto Twitter, and she brags about hitting the cyclist. She got on there, and she said the following: definitely knocked a cyclist off his bike earlier. I have the right of way. He doesn't even pay road tax. Hashtag bloody cyclists. And then she goes on to continues on. I really need to wake up earlier. I cannot do this every single day to my poor car. Look out ways about And then she posted a picture of her speedometer posting 95 miles an hour. What's funny about this, that guess who got involved? The police, because obviously they thought, whoa, well, the police won't know. It's on Twitter. The police aren't on Twitter. Yes. Yes, they are. So they tweeted her back saying, hey, if you haven't turned yourself in already, please do so immediately. So, and then shortly sometime thereafter, she deleted her account. But if you're going to do something like this, I've said this on the show so many times. If you're going to do something stupid, don't post it to social media. A lady a woman robbed a bank, posted the bills of money in her hand. Said, I just robbed a bank. Why, people? We were just, the last story we covered about people sharing too much. People who commit crimes are sharing this on social media. We should expand the Darwin Awards to just plain stupidity of criminals who self-turn themselves in via social media. We'll call it the Darwin social media. Death by social media or something. I don't know. It's fucking ridiculous. Joe, your thoughts?
There would certainly be no shortage of stupid people on social media.
No.
But, yeah, Emma Way, that's her name.
Yes.
She is a horrible human being.
Yes, she is a very horrible human being.
As a Twitter head, my first thought was to find her tweets, but the article says she deleted her account. But at the bottom of the article, they got a screenshot of both of her tweets, her profile pic, everything. Epic. So I was like, all right, that's satisfied. But,
were we able to find the picture? Because they said if the account is gone,
yeah, if you scroll to the bottom of the article, they got a screenshot of it.
Oh, do they?
Of her original tweets, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got that. I thought maybe because it linked to a picture of the speedometer. I thought maybe you were talking about that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you're going to break the law, if you're going to harm people, if you're going to almost kill somebody,
yeah, you
probably should keep that shit off social media and just stick to posting pictures of animals hugging. Because everybody loves that.
Yeah, the thing was, the guy, he gets interviewed, and he says, oh, yeah, man, she threw me off the bike. I'm just like, she almost killed me. And then he gets on his Facebook, and he goes, you didn't hurt me. You can't, I'm better than that. I'm Superman, pretty much.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the Man of Steel. You did not hurt me.
Right, exactly. He's like, what? Really? Come on now.
But she knocked the side view mirror off her car by hitting him, and threw him into a bush. Like, he's lucky there was a bush there.
Shit, no shit.
She could have run him over.
I'm surprised she didn't. We're going 95 miles an hour. That guy, he must have thought he was Superman because he flew. Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I love this story. This woman is something else. I mean, she tweets about hitting a guy. I mean, Twitter is a public place where anyone can see what you tweet. Even if you've got a private profile or something, someone's going to turn you in if you hit some dude.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what you're thinking to do something like that. But the fact that this guy talks it up and makes it sound like he's all macho, and then turns around and does a BBC interview where he's like, yeah, well, I'm lucky to be alive. I managed to get in the hedge and stand up.
It makes me wonder. Now, with these two conflicting things, I'm wondering if these two weren't maybe in cahoots with each other.
Oh, I don't think they're in cahoots. It sounds like she hit him with a car. I wouldn't get hit by a car.
Saying because it was just like
stunt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought it was thinking maybe it was a publicity stunt of some sort, but it is the almost Onion News here on this one. Anything else on that?
Not really. Okay. That's about all you can say about it.
Bionic Dance, your thoughts?
Well, it's one thing if you think you have the facts on your side and you don't. It's really easy to admit, I screwed up, I was wrong there. But when you think you've got, like, morals on your side, when you think that you've got the high ground, then you've got people who stand up and fight to the death, especially online,
Yep.
And so that I think is where you've got these two people. Because you've got this woman who's like, I had the right of way, and this bicyclist got in my way, and look at me, I won,
Car versus bike.
And then you got the bicyclist who's like, this lady endangered my life. What, are you kidding me? And so now you've got this like contest of wills going on. That's essentially what's going on, and you've seen this 1,000 times in 1,000 different situations online. I mean, have you heard about this other situation with this girl in Dunkin' Donuts?
Oh, yeah.
She didn't get her receipt, and now she's flipping out, demanding like all these free donuts. Yep. And then she starts in with the racial slurs and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same sort of thing. I mean, hell, it's even worse than this, I imagine. But still, I mean, that's the sort of thing you see online. I mean, YouTube's full of that sort of contest of wills just within the atheism community, never mind, I mean, probably within the gaming community, the geek community. Oh, yeah. I mean, come on, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. It is. You're right on that point. It's a force of wills once against the other. The one that you gave, the lady gets the Dunkin' Donuts, it's her will versus the corporation. And these poor workers, they're just trying to do their job. If she didn't get a receipt, hey, accidents happen. It's a little screw up. No need to go, oh, you're a bad word and this word and whatever. It's like, lady, chill the fuck out. That's the problem with some people who get really real popular or real famous even, because then they forget, hey, these are other human beings. They have feelings. I work like a regular job, and I've had a lot of crappy managers. I have a pretty decent manager right now, my current job, but I've had managers in the past and bosses in the past who thought, their shit didn't stink, and there was nothing you could tell them that to tell them any different. So it's unbelievable. Does anybody else have any last thoughts on this?
I think that's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, very good. Before we get going to our next topic here, there was something I wanted to mention. You heard it at the beginning of the show. Packard Pokes At is now being featured on AtheismTV, and I just put up the logo. It was supposed to be up towards the beginning of the show. My bad. But we're being a part of AtheismTV. The show is going to be featured in its entirety after it's been edited and cleaned up a little bit to be presented on there. So if you want to catch the show later, it'll be on AtheismTV on YouTube. So give it a check look out there. Okay, let's get to our next topic for this evening.
They got paid for their sound bites and sold their TV movie rights.
When I think of racism, I don't usually think of breakfast at the same time. Those two things just don't go together. I usually try to have my racism after I have my breakfast, but never at the same time. I'm not racist. I hate everybody equally. So everybody starts at the same level, as I always say. No, I'm totally kidding on this. But there's
No, you're not.
No. Cheerios put out a commercial where there's a little black girl, white mother, father's black, and the problem is the father's black and the mother's white, and the child is a mixed race. People are losing their fucking minds over this. Why, people? If it was a mother, a baby, and a tiger, then I can see, maybe we're having a little issue here. But, I'm a speciesist. No, I'm sorry. I'm total speciesist here. The problem here is that your perception of these, well, actually not your perception, these people's perception, rather, are just fucking ridiculous. It's a family, for criminy sakes. It's a family having breakfast. If you can't handle a white woman and a black man having a child, you do not belong in the human race. Take your card, the human race card, throw it in the trash, and go plant yourself somewhere, preferably away from civilized society. Joe, your thoughts?
It says in the fine print on the back of that card, revocable at any time.
I hope so.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Cheerios myself. I'm a shredded wheat kind of person.
Yeah.
But
I'm not a big Cheerios person myself. I prefer Chex myself. I like those better.
Ooh, Chex are good.
Yes.
But I thought this Cheerios ad was very sweet, and it's disappointing that in the 21st century people would even get upset at seeing an interracial couple on a TV spot, or walk around any big city or even a big town, and mixed race couples are everywhere. It's common now. And it's getting kind of antiquated, I think, to even use terminology like interracial or mixed race, as skin color is as relevant as hair color or eye color. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's just silly.
And many years ago, many years ago, people would do that. They say, well, this person's got red hair, you have blonde hair, you can't marry because you got red hair and you got blonde hair. We've stepped away from this, people. Stop that. I'm sorry, Joe. You have anything further you wanted to add on that?
No.
Oh, okay, Dave, your thoughts?
I don't know. Interracial marriage has been legal since 1967.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should come as a great surprise to people that there are families who have taken advantage of this Supreme Court decision.
Right. You don't think they wouldn't anyway.
I think that, from my understanding of this, the vast majority of it were comments on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know that this is like it's blown into this big controversial thing, and it probably boils down to a few legitimate racists and a bunch of asshole trolls.
Oh, mm-hmm. Yeah. Always boils down to the asshole trolls that say, "Oh, we don't like this, we don't like that." Many corporations, based on some racism, have scrapped certain plans to do certain things. In a way, it's kind of old news because their study groups are all over the place. But now, since they're posting it online, everybody has access to it, and now that's when you get the real trolls coming out.
Oh, absolutely. There have been some good parodies that have come out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Joe sent one earlier. I had seen another one earlier than that. And,
I saw one where the little girl runs off, and it's a black woman sitting in there. I was like, oh, let's really hit the fan now. I was like, I was loving that one even more.
That one, Dave, that I tweeted to all of you guys this morning, I was going through Bionic Dance's channel, and I saw that she had liked that video.
Oh, great.
So I got it off her channel, and I thought it was hilarious. It was great.
I enjoyed that thoroughly.
I was kind of hoping she would bring it up.
Oh, maybe she will. Bionic Dance.
So which video was this?
It's the parody Cheerios commercial where the guy's in the Klan hood.
Oh, yes. Okay, I know the one you're talking about. Sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm actually going to have to take a rather unpopular stance on this one.
Okay.
Actually, you see, not all races are the same. Not all races are equal. Really. I would much rather do a dash than a marathon, and don't get me started on hurdles. Sorry. Could not help myself. Had to.
And you're not a very good dancer either.
No, I mean, seriously, I'm multiracial myself. I know some of you might think I don't look it, but I am actually Italian, Austrian, Cherokee, French, and black. I'm adopted. My parents are actually Italian and Jewish, but my birth father was Italian and Austrian. My birth mother, Cherokee, French, and black. So obviously I can't possibly have a problem with an interracial couple without kind of hating on myself.
Right.
So, and I grew up around some interracial couples that had interracial kids. So, I mean, seriously, I have no problem with this at all. None.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah. We're a mixed culture. I don't understand why. I keep having to look at the calendar to remind myself this is 2013. I was like, where do these people come from?
The xenophobia in this country is really bizarre, where people are just scared of the other. It's different, kill it. That attitude, I don't understand it. Yep. I mean, even when people make economic arguments, where it's like, oh, don't let them in, they'll steal our jobs. And start spending money, raising demand, thus demanding more jobs. They're never going to take our jobs from us. It's not a problem.
Gosh. Yeah, and it's usually the jobs that they don't want anyway, like dishwashing,
and
picking
it's not
fruit.
like they're going to change our culture. We have freedom of religion in this world,
yep.
Or at least in this country. So, I mean, what are you scared of? I honestly don't understand this fear of the other that people have.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I always put it like this. People don't always understand what they fear, and people always fear what they don't understand. I think that's what it boils down to right there. All right, well, let's get moving into our next topic for this evening. And tonight's topic is something that we're all accused of. Now, there's things like blasphemy and adultery, having sex with someone you're not married to, having sex with the same sex. Now, what do all these things and much, much more have in common? It's a sin. Now, the concept of sin goes back quite a ways. It actually starts back in Egypt. Basically, they had what they called the weighing of the heart. Now, it said that if the heart was unburdened with the weight of sin and corruption, it would balance with the feather, and its possessors would enjoy eternal afterlife. Now, the thing is, though, when they would weigh a human heart against a feather, well, the heart has a lot of mass to it, so it was always heavier than the feather. They didn't realize that, hey, feathers are light things. So they would assume that the person had a lot of sin, or they did a lot of bad things in their lives. It goes to a variety of different things. The goddess Ma'at, I believe it is, she was the goddess of truth and the directest of the gods. She would basically decorate the erect the feather, which is where that comes from, with her emblem. Just ushers into the departed into the hall of the truth knelling. The departed one evokes 42 assessors by name and disclaims having committed any one of the 42 sins, as it were, and you would not be able of the Egyptian moral code, and then you would basically not get into their Egyptian heaven or whatever. There was quite a variety of them here. I'll have them listed at packardpokes@wordpress.com when after the end of the show. So we're going to start the clock, and the timer. Whoops, it's on this side. Here we go. Here it is, and we're going to start the timer now. Bionic Dance, you go first. What is your point of sin?
Well, I actually did a video about sin quite recently. I was actually addressing Kirk Cameron. Oh, yeah. And the whole thing about sin is that it's an imaginary disease designed to sell you an imaginary cure, is really what it is. There's no such thing as sin. It's possible that you might wrong somebody, you might harm them in some way, and you might want to make restitution to them. But people talk about sin as though you've somehow offended their God or broken their God's rules. Doesn't really exist, though. I mean, seriously, they can't prove it. Right. There's no evidence for it. So sin, not a real thing.
Now I've always held that position myself, that sin is not a real thing. It's usually cooked up by people who do not want you to do a certain thing, because if you touch yourself or you engage in pleasures like you eat too much, that's one of the deadly sins. Or you look at yourself in the mirror trying to make sure that your eyebrows are straight. That's the sin of of liking yourself too much. I don't know. It's vanity. Thank you very much. And it's no such thing, people. So anybody that says you committed a sin, tell them to go fuck themselves. Joe, Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Bionic Dance was really hitting the nail on the head with its imaginary disease made up to sell an imaginary cure. And what gets me is that, especially in Christianity and in the Abrahamic faiths, the concept of sin starts at original sin.
Yeah.
But then there are a lot of Christians who accept evolution and discard Genesis. So once they get rid of original sin, I don't understand where they come up with why sin exists, and then even why Jesus then would have to be crucified for that sin.
That's a great question. If you accept evolution, what's the point of the Christ dying, as it were? I mean,
well, what's he dying for if it's not the original sin that you've already discarded in your whole worldview of your religion? It makes no sense to me. Yeah, the weighing of the hearts from the Egyptian culture goes back to the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And really, they would be dead before they had to confess their sins. So it's sort of something that they do in... I don't know enough about the Egyptian religion, but I believe that it was kind of similar to our purgatory.
Yeah, well, something like that. Because they had Seth, who would take you down into the earth, and Horus
but they
would
were reciting these. They were reciting these sins to Osiris at the time.
Right. But Horus was the one that would take you up into the Egyptian heaven, and Seth was the evil brother who would take you down into the Egyptian hell, as it were.
Sure, and sin exists almost ubiquitously across religions. Even I'd argue that karma is a form of sin that does not necessarily go against a god, but rather goes against a moral order.
All right. And they had quite a listing of moral orders here. I was reading some of these things, and it's just like, if you commit a falsehood, or you take and well, basically lie and stuff. There was a whole bunch of other ones here. I just lost the page where it was at, but
ultimately it's a false mechanism in order to perpetuate a false threat.
Right.
And that's basically what it is. I mean, they say if you lie, you are therefore a liar, and if you cheat, you are therefore a cheater, and you need to be forgiven.
Right.
But they completely ignore that if you love, you're therefore a lover, or if you do good, you're therefore a do-gooder, I suppose.
Yeah, and I actually just found the page. It says, here's some of the things that they said that you were supposed to do, the moral code. It says, I did not do evil. You have to confess these things, I guess. I did not commit violence. I did not torment any heart. I did not steal. I did not cause anyone to be treacherously killed. I did not lessen the offerings. I did not do any harm. I did not utter a lie. The list goes on and on. Like I said, there'll be a list at packardpokes@wordpress.com. Joe, what are your thoughts on this?
I think if you don't sin, Jesus died for nothing.
Hey, there you go. I'm for you. Let's all go out and commit.
Let's get our sin on. Yeah.
Let's get our sin on. Wait a minute. No. That almost sounds like a technical thing. Sin on. Yeah.
I think Bionic and Dave covered it pretty good. It takes a God to have sin. Without a God or proof that there is a God, then sin is just an imaginary construct of religion.
Right.
And I've discussed this with many believers on Twitter many times, and I've said, well, sin is irrelevant to me because I don't believe in God, and therefore I'm not pissing anyone off. And they were like, well, it's still pertinent because if you believe in it, then it's real. And I'm like, yeah, no. It doesn't matter how much you believe in it. Reality is reality.
Right. Exactly. And what I don't understand with these people is that they put so much emphasis on the bad stuff. I mean, what about all the good, supposedly good stuff? I mean, come on.
And who decided what's a sin and what's not a sin?
Exactly. I mean, it all boils down to people who are just sexually frustrated, mostly, because they're not getting any. They don't want you to get any. When Dan was here on the show, he would say there's a term for it. I forget what it is, but it goes basically like this: somebody out there somewhere is having a good time, and God damn it, it's not me. So I'm going to make a law to make you sure you're not doing it, and that's basically what sin boils down to. If you're trying to prevent somebody else from having a good time overall, I would think. Anybody have any last words here? Yeah, we have about 40 seconds or so on the clock.
Sure. The concept of original sin is especially weird to me because it's inherited sin. It's not anything you yourself did. Mm-hmm. It's something that apparently your ancestors from way back when did, and you're getting blamed for it.
Right.
How is that in any way fair?
Exactly. I've never understood it. It's like saying...
Great point.
Yeah, let's say my dad ran over a cat. Does that mean I ran over a cat too? I mean, just by the fact that,
Well, and your great-great... granny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 7 generations of sin.
Oh, yeah, 7 generations of sin. Yeah, because the great-great-great-great-grandpa killed a cat, and now you're cursed forever until you buy them a new cat. And it's like, well, why didn't they buy him a new cat a while back? I don't know. All right, well, that's our time. And this was a great discussion. Hey, like all our other discussions, we might come back to this again sometime because this is a really good topic. Okay, well, let's get on to our next topic for this evening. Our funny tweet tonight comes from Jablinski, and he retweets Torrible. That's Torriable, and he says, I am not horny, but I did try to get laid at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I thought that was kind of funny myself, but
so did I. I was unsuccessful.
For my job, I travel around a lot, and a lot of times I'd be traveling to these hotels, and I'd be going, I'm horny too, but no one's trying to get me laid.
And then they call the cops, and you have to leave. It sucks.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, and they have to find a new hotel, unless, you get the prison bar hotel. Never mind. Our shout-out tonight comes from Joe, and Joe is giving the shout-out to My Sick Bones, and that's MySickBones. Joe, can you tell us a little bit about My Sick Bones?
Yes. My Sick Bones profile reads, Smiting Man of Mystery, Guru, Sex Machine, Water Bear, plus First Dia Master of Lap Gotch, whatever that means, Leak-Colored Belt of Death, Mayhem, Scratching, Hair Pulling, and Smiting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now,
My Sick Bones.
I got a question. If he's a sex machine, is he run on AC or DC? Because I've got a car battery that needs to be recharged. And maybe
he's a water bear. He's a sex machine.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, My Sick Bones is a great follow on Twitter. He participates a lot in humorous hashtags that get thrown around, and he has a great sense of humor. Mm-hmm. He's part of the atheist community on Twitter. He often writes and RTs very clever and thought-provoking stuff. And he is also sometimes visits us in the chat room here on the show. So everybody on Twitter should give My Sick Bones a follow and say that you heard of him here.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to follow My Sick Bones, that's MySickBones, and give him a shout out and tell him you heard him on the show. Actually, he's in the chat room tonight, so I think he already knows.
Yeah, he's in the chat room. Hi, Sick. What's up, Sick?
Hi, Sick Bones.
What's up, Bones?
Bones. All right.
I'm a water bear, not a doctor. Damn it.
All right. Well, let's get into...
It's like, fuck off, yes.
Nice. All right. Well, let's get into our next topic for this evening. And tonight's special guest joining us on the panel is Bionic Dance. Also, her street name is Kate, or Skate Killer.
Who? I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. But no, she talks about going out skating quite a bit sometimes on her channel, and she talks about atheism and just getting things basically right. I agree with her on quite a lot of subjects. I mean, I don't agree on everything. Of course, I don't agree with myself half the time. So hey, we're all in the same camp on that. So, but I would like to introduce, of course, Bionic Dance. Welcome to. And thank you for joining us tonight on the show. I had a list of questions here. I know you've talked about this on your channel, but how did you come across the name Bionic Dance? Just for our listeners who may not know.
Well, it's actually a reference to one of my favorite cartoon shows from the 1980s, The Bionic Six. Whenever they would power up their bionic powers, they have this wrist gauntlet thing that they put a ring into. But they couldn't just, put the ring into the gauntlet. They had to do this martial arts swirling dance maneuver thing to do it first. They would shout, "Bionics on!" And then they would, do that funky dance maneuver. And every time they would do it, I was like, hey, look, they're doing the Bionic Dance. And seriously, and I'm an animator by trade. That's what I went to school for, and it's something I've been trying to make a career out of for a while now. And I figured if I ever had my own animation company, that'd be a great name for it, because, Bionic 6 was an animated show. I'm an animator. Bionic Dance Animation would be a great name for an animation company. Right. It's a reference to an animated show. So that's where the name came from. My YouTube channel was originally going to be an animation channel before it became a platform for atheism.
These things happen.
That's where the name came from.
Oh, very good, very good. A couple questions here. Were you ever religious, or did you come out of religion at all?
I'm not really, no. I mean, my mother is, or was, or kind of Jewish, I guess. I mean, culturally Jewish, was raised that way. And, I guess we kind of celebrated Hanukkah half-heartedly. But we were never really religious in any way. My dad, on the other hand, was raised Italian Catholic and rejected that long before they ever adopted my ass. So, basically I was raised kind of like culturally being drawn from one side to the other. But we were never really religious ever. Not really. And I tried one thing or another as I was growing up, and it all just seemed so silly and ridiculous to me. And I saw my friends going to church and all this stuff. I mean, the closest we ever came to being religious, we went very briefly to a Unitarian church, and no. So, no, I was never religious in any way. Not really.
Oh, Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. We all find our way out of it, or we're very fortunate, like some of us here on the show, have never had to be experienced being tortured, mentally by religion. Where do you get the inspiration for some of your videos? I mean, you go after people like on Fox News and everything. We had quite a flurry of comments on just the video I posted for your appearance here on the show. It gathered quite a lot of comments, because of the fact is that you go after Fox News and things like that, and we go after Fox News here on the show quite a bit, and GOP, as it were. Why do you do it, though? I mean, I understand why I do it and everything. Can you just get a little background on yours?
That's kind of two different questions in a way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when I started making videos, I was basically just refuting religious arguments and religion, largely because I saw it as a very destructive force, and I still do, and also because I just plain thought it was wrong, incorrect, not wrong in a moral sense, although I kind of see it that way too, but mostly just because I thought it was factually incorrect.
Right.
Now I'm more in kind of a self-defense mode. I see religion as a destructive force, as something that harms people, something that really gets in the way of freedom and just life in general, and I would really like that to stop. Now, I guess it's okay if people want to be religious, if that's who and what they are, but I would prefer it if it would stop, like getting in the way of other people's lives. So, in a way, I guess I'm making my videos more now than the way I was before, more now in kind of a self-defense mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've seen some of the videos that you kind of incorporate the atheism movement into the videos. I mean, the message is very clear. I mean, unless some people are not.
Well, but the thing is that's changed how I've made my videos, because it used to be that I would just take an idea of religion and find the facts to refute it, find the arguments to refute it. But now I've made about 800 videos at this point. I've said everything that can be said about religion conceptually, I think. So now what I do is I go I search for religion-related videos on YouTube.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Actually, you skipped my question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I search for religion-related videos on YouTube or on news websites, and I download those and talk about why religious people are messing up our lives, are making our lives worse, and what we can do to stop that. So that's kind of what's inspiring my YouTube videos now, as opposed to what I used to do in the past.
Are you going to be coming out with any more of those animation videos? The Kinnear Baxter on the space station?
That actually wasn't Kinnear Baxter. It was the same 3D model, but her name was Sandra.
Sandra, okay. My mistake.
That was Rational Station, and maybe. Right now I'm actually working on something else called Ray Gun Rebecca. It's completely unrelated to atheism. It's more of a sci-fi adventure thing. It may be about 6 to 8 minutes long when it's done. I don't know. We'll see. But once that's finished, I may do another Rational Station. We'll see.
I was going to ask you, when you make your animations, I mean, that looks very involved. I am a very amateur. I have no knowledge of how animations are really made, as it were. I mean, I know there's a lot of stick figure and 3D modeling. How long does it take you to do about just a minute of the animation to get done?
That depends on so many factors. It depends on how many characters are in the scene, whether or not there's any lip sync that needs to be done, like if there's any dialogue, that kind of thing. Depends on how many special effects are going on. That's almost impossible to say.
Okay. Well, I thought, let's just say, let's just take a simple scene, just like someone just taking a walk, just like 1 minute. They're just walking towards a door, not speaking or anything, just walking towards the door and about to reach for it. How long would you say something like that would take?
Let's see. Okay. Well, walking towards a door doesn't take very long. I mean, it's just steps, arms swinging, rib cage moving, and then rendering it. Well, okay, again, depends on the environment, though. I mean, how many lights you have, whether or not you're actually rendering the shadows out. If the shadows are ray traced or just shadow mapped. So again, it depends on a lot of factors, but You could probably have that done a minute's worth. Gosh, maybe a day and a half. Depends.
Wow, that's.
Well, it's a minute of video. I mean, a minute could take a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
If it, and you probably wouldn't have someone walk for an entire minute.
Right, I can imagine not.
So.
Yeah. No, I was just kind of curious. I mean, obviously they wouldn't be a whole minute unless it was a really long hallway. I was just kind of give our listeners an idea of how complicated this is. I'm a big cartoon watcher. I've been watching cartoons since I was a little kid, and I still enjoy them today. And a lot of the cartoons nowadays are computer-based animation. I was always an impatient child going, why does it take them so long? But there's a very good reason why this takes very long, especially now, nowadays, even with computers, because there's so much involved to get this done. I have one more quick question, and I'm going to turn over to the floor for everybody else. Is there any other channels on YouTube that you like to go to visit on a regular basis that you enjoy watching?
I'm sure there are, but gosh, I'm being put on the spot at the moment, and it's hard to think of any just off the top of my head. I have been watching The Young Turks a lot lately, and I also have been watching Mr. Repzion lately. Not that either of those two need a shout out from me. They've got way more subs than I do.
Oh, yeah.
See, one of the things is anyone who's been to my channel lately knows that I have epilepsy right now. It's something that's kind of new. It's due to some brain damage, and part of the problem that comes with that is memory issues. And so I'm finding it very difficult to even remember the names of some of the channels I go to. So that's.
I call that old age.
Unfortunately, in my case, it's not. It's literally brain damage. Yeah. So
how did that happen? By the way, did you fall or something?
They don't know how it happened, but I can tell you right now what triggers it is certain kinds of things that, like foods, actually, that inflame blood vessels. We've discovered that caffeine and pork products will do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it sucks if you love bacon.
Yeah, I miss bacon. I miss it a lot.
Oh, the meat that is candy. Okay,
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Dan used to say on the channel, bacon, it'll change your life. I'm going to open up the floor for some questions. Joe, did you have a question for Bionic Dance?
Oh, I've got a few questions.
Okay.
First of all, I'm sorry to hear about your recent health issues, but I'm also happy to hear that you are a fan of Bionic 6, because I used to watch that when I was a kid. I had a huge crush on the blonde girl on that cartoon. I remember the theme song. It goes, Bionic 6. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, I love that
Great show. But anyway, I watched a whole bunch of your videos this week, and I watched one this afternoon, actually, and I thought it would be funny to ask you about how many hours a day do you spend hoping there is no God?
Hardly any, really. I mean, I'm pretty sure there isn't one, so I just spend a lot of time not even thinking about it.
Right, yeah. So zero then.
Hey, Joe, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask Bionic Dance?
Yeah, you make some of my favorite videos that you make are when you grab someone else's YouTube video and they're saying something really stupid and you chop it up and you respond to them and you totally pwn them. I was wondering, do you send them a link when you do that? Do they respond?
That's a great question.
If they do respond, do you have any epic or memorable responses you've gotten?
Well, I do try to post my video as a response to theirs, but generally speaking, I don't send them a private message with a link to my video. Although a lot of times they'll have comments and ratings disabled on their video, which is kind of cowardly, I think. But, so I can't actually send them my video as a response, so there's not a lot you can do there, which is kind of a shame. But they have sent me some responses. Some of them have. Unfortunately, some people have also kind of become obsessed when they've gotten a video response. There are a couple of people I could name. I don't know if I should name them or
go
not.
ahead. I don't. We will.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give them the attention is the thing.
Okay. Sure.
But there are two people I could name where I've responded to them once, and the next thing I know, every video they make gets posted as a response to one of my videos, whether it has anything to do with them or not. And so, there's like ups and downs to letting someone know that you've responded to their video.
Oh yeah.
Because they can take it quite personally, apparently.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Where like you're responding to an issue they raised, and they're like, "How dare you? I shall now have a vendetta against thee." You know. So
how dare you contradict my viewpoint? Because my viewpoint is my viewpoint, and even though I'm trying to force my beliefs on you, you're not right to have other beliefs or whatever. I guess these people are.
Yeah. So there's reasons to and reasons not to send someone your video response.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, but do they generally like find out about it, or not really, or you only know if they respond to you?
I send them the response and then forget about it. If they reply, then they reply. If they don't, they don't.
Okay.
More often than not, if I've responded to somebody, I'm not actually responding to them. I'm making a message for the world to see. Hopefully someone learns from it. Hopefully they don't. But usually the person I'm responding to is a douchebag, and I don't expect to change their mind at all. I'm hoping to change someone else's mind when they see the video, but not theirs.
Right, exactly. Awesome. Today I watched your American Atheist 50th Anniversary Convention video.
Oh, yeah.
And
unfortunately, that one was a little screwed up technically, but,
It was still good. I think you might be onto something. What do you say we open a chain of fondue and archery restaurants? I mean, it could be like the Hunger Games.
Here comes the cheese! Bing!
Instead of fighting to the death, we could fight over melted cheese. Like,
this is not the fondue you're looking for. I'm sorry, that's a different show.
But really, while you were there at the convention, is there anyone that you met that really made your day? And do you have any amusing story that didn't make it into your video?
Oh man, an amusing story that didn't make it into the video? Probably, but man, nothing that leaps immediately to mind.
Okay.
But there was one guy that I met. Oh man, I'm trying to remember his last name now, but his first name's Mark. I had no idea it was him until he said something, and it turned out that he played Willow Ufgood's son in Willow, the movie Willow.
Oh.
And I was like,
really?
No way, that was you? And he's like on the Austin Atheist Freethinker board or something. I think he's like technical crew for the whatever show it is that Matt Dillahunty's on, Brain Not Work Now, Atheist Experience. That's it.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, no way, that's awesome. But I mean, there were a lot of people I met. I met Zomgets Chris and. I'm not 100% certain how I feel about this, but I actually met Richard Carrier at one point. Oh. And I met Aaron Ra, and he's awesome.
I've heard that.
I met, oh wow, total brain cramps.
There was Matt Dillahunty?
Yeah, Matt Dillahunty, yeah.
And Seth Andrews?
Him. But I'm thinking of the British guy. Brain Not Work Now.
Richard Dawkins.
This is the memory issues I'm talking about.
Richard Dawkins.
No, he wasn't there.
Oh. I knew he was British.
Well, yeah. No, I'm thinking of a YouTuber. Initials. He goes by initials here.
Oh, DPR Jones?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, DPR Jones.
Yes.
Man, see, this is one of the things. It's like the files are all there in my head, but the filing system is completely broken. This is one of the problems with the where the cavernous malformation is in my head. So the language system of my brain. So.
Yeah, I have the same problem trying to find a single file on my computer too. I can never find anything. But I know you're the computer you're talking about in your head. My computer is so all over the place. So. This is my brain extended, so that's all messed up as it is.
But no, so I met a lot of really great people there. But I think meeting the guy who played Willow Ufgood's son was like, no way, that's awesome. So
that is awesome. Yeah, it looks like you had a really good time. I'm envious. A lot of Twitter atheists ask me, like, are you coming to Austin? Are you coming to Austin? Because if you're coming, I'll go and we can meet up and we can hang out. I'm like, oh, I would totally love to go to that, but that's like a lot of money for me right now.
Yeah. Let's get Dave's question here. Dave, you had a question for Bionic Dance?
Well, First, before it gets lost in all the comments in the chat room, I think Dawkins Dog wanted to ask what kind of software you use for your animation.
Oh, yes. I was going to ask that earlier.
Yeah, 3ds Max is what I use. Formerly 3D Studio Max.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
It's now owned by the same people who make Maya, although I've never used Maya. I really should go to Maya because that's what a lot of the industry professionals use these days. But I got started on 3ds Max. I'm very familiar with it, so that's what I use.
Oh,
nice.
Very good. Your questions then, Dave?
Yeah, so I was wondering, how did you come upon being more vocal about your atheism? What spurred you to create the channel and start speaking out like that?
Oh, that's a good question. What really was the tipping point?
Well, I mean, originally I created the channel to show off my animation, but I started talking about atheism, I suppose, because I started seeing some of the other atheist YouTubers, and they kind of inspired me. I was like, these people do have a point, and they're points that really do matter to me quite a bit, and I think that I can present the similar points in other ways and in more entertaining ways, because at first I started animating them. I started by making Rational Station, my animated version, although because animation takes a really long time, I started appearing on camera instead, because, well, let's face it, I can make videos faster that way. But I suppose the main reason I started making the videos is because religious people do tend to mistreat a lot of people. And I mean, I don't know if, I assume everyone knows I'm a lesbian. Religious people tend to have a bug up their butt about LGBT folks.
Yes, they do.
And, so I was like, well, again, self-defense. I've mentioned this before here on this show, is that we need to defend ourselves against religious people mistreating other folks. So I guess that was a large part of the tipping point as well, was, I needed to defend myself against religious intrusion into my life.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't belong there. I mean, I've never understood why religion feels that they have a need or even a right to push their way into our bedrooms, for example. I mean, who you love is none of their goddamn business. We're going to take some quick questions from the... one more question here. Actually, my producer, she's been enjoying your videos along with me. She wants to ask you a quick question.
This more or less has to do with how you have a problem with, remembering things, because as a teenager, I do have troubles, but I think it's more or less to deal with my ADHD, which I've been recently diagnosed with, and I have troubles remembering things, but how do you deal with that? How do you remember things yourself?
Well, generally speaking, I don't. I mean, fortunately, it's limited to very specific things. The damage to my brain is in the left mesial temporal lobe, which is actually the language center of the brain. So if I don't use a word, or if I don't see a person for a very long amount of time, basically their identity will get displaced from their name, essentially. So it's like if there's a word and a concept that I haven't used in a very long time, I'll remember the concept, but not the word that means that concept. Or if I know a person, I'll remember like who they're married to, the job they do, where they live, how I met them, all of this stuff, but their name, cannot remember it. But everything else I remember just fine. It's just names and words like that get all jumbled up, and I can't remember them. And it's not like I'm mixing up, well, this word and that definition get mixed up with that word and that definition. It's just I can't remember, which words and which definitions are connected to each other, that kind of thing. So generally speaking, if I want to remember something, I need access to the internet. Or I need to have a friend nearby where I can say, who is so-and-so again? It's like I'll describe somebody to them and they'll say, oh, yeah, that's your friend Robin or something, which is one of the reasons why I actually kind of want that Google Glass device. I mean, it seems like such an extravagance.
Oh, yeah. That'd be nice.
But to be able to look someone up just by like tapping your head and going, okay, Glass, who the heck is this person? You know, I kind of want that.
Yeah,
But-
I have the same problem. I can remember faces. Names have always escaped me. I mean, I have to keep asking Joe his name every time he shows up on the show. I'm just kidding. But
He calls me Jim all the time.
yeah, I call him Jim. My daughter had one last thing to say you wanted to say.
Well, back to the recognizing a face or not remembering the name. I know that feeling. I personally cannot remember a name. It takes me at least a month to remember a person's name, somebody that I meet that's new. I mean, like you said, recognizing their face, all these features about them, that's easier. But the names, it's difficult to remember names or certain like words or definitions and all that stuff. It is difficult.
Well, I wish I had a trick or a hint for you. I've only been dealing with this for about a year myself, because this damage to my head meats is kind of new. But I don't. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. I was only diagnosed with ADHD a few months ago.
That's you're dealing with that.
Yeah,
issue,
that's what I'm dealing with.
All right, we're going to take some questions from the chat room. Did anybody have some questions that they wanted to ask by Dance in the chat room there?
All these people showed up to hear her speak. Now is your chance to ask her a question. What did you always want to ask her?
Yes. What did you always want to ask her? This is the dancing portion of the show. This is where we take off our soft shoe and we just dance around the channel.
Apparently, I'm just not that interested.
Hey, so not being raised in a religious household, how do you deal with talking to people who were, and how do you walk that fine line between offending them and
what was that noise?
Not.
What was that noise?
Well, I also kind of lucked out in a way, in that I was raised in Vermont, where people, recently they did some sort of study where they discovered Vermont is the least religious state in the United States. So I never really had to deal with fundies that much. So not offending people, never really that much of an issue for me. I mean, I suppose I may have at some point, but they never really had much power where I grew up. So, if I offended somebody, they probably just had to swallow it. And then I moved to Seattle, where it's pretty much the same deal. I suppose if I ever went somewhere to like the Midwest or the South, I might be in for a rude awakening someday, but I've never really had to watch my mouth.
We did have a question in the chat room from Dawkins Dog. He wanted to know, do you ever have funny debates with people on Facebook, or do you just do it over YouTube?
It's happened on Facebook, certainly. They don't get all that heated. I mean, YouTube is actually a lot more heated than Facebook ever gets. I suppose if I joined more integrated groups on Facebook, it might get a little more heated. There are groups that are allegedly, atheist versus theist kind of groups, but they're moderated pretty heavily, and they tend to swing a lot more atheist than theist. I suppose probably for the same reason that there aren't as many fundies on YouTube anymore, because they keep getting their butts kicked.
Ain't that the truth? And of course, then there's the false flaggers out there, because they realize that we've got the better argument, and then they just go, oh, well, I don't like what you have to say, and I'm going to false flag you. Do you have to come across that very often?
I have never had one of my videos false... No, wait, I take that back. I have had my videos false flagged before, but never successfully. Because there have been people who've tried to flag my videos for like copyrighted content or stolen content, but fortunately, one of the classes I took when I was at the Art Institute was copyright law, and I know fair use rather well. And so I've been able to combat every flag that's ever been handed to my videos. Every flag.
Good. I came across a couple of those myself, because I used some music from Apple's GarageBand, and YouTube goes, well, you're not allowed to use this because this is copyrighted music. And I saw that video that you put out about that, actually, and it's like, well, this music here is by GarageBand, and I actually had to do some extra looking up on that to show that the video, or the audio rather, was free and clear. And it took them a few days, but they did back down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can cite U.S. Copyright Act Title 17, Chapter 1, Section 107, fair use, and explain that you've used something for criticism or comment.
Or satirical?
Yep, satirical, that kind of thing. Usually you can get away with it on YouTube, especially if the other party does back down, and generally they do, especially if you throw the legalese at, like, I am so out of my depth.
Your audio cut out there for a moment. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, people will back down, just from the legalese, because they'll realize, oh gosh, I'm completely out of my depth.
Ah, yes. Some people, depends on what business you're in, but some people they hear the word lawyer and they're going to go, oh, whatever you say, just hearing the word lawyer is enough for some people. But some other people, they need to have more. They need to actually be told these legal ease there. We're going to see if we can grab one more from the chat room here. Wise Guy in the chat room says, I have been accused of being a militant atheist, although nobody knows if I am. If they ask me, have you had similar experiences? And how are your relationships with religious people?
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure what a militant atheist really even is. I mean, okay, sure, I argue pretty strongly for atheism, and I would love it if everyone was an atheist, because I frankly think atheism is the truth. But at the same time, lately I've softened a little, because I do think that if you want to be religious, go ahead, just get it the heck out of my face and out of our politics.
Absolutely.
Live and let live, actually. But at the same time, I mean, what is a militant atheist really? How many atheist terrorists have you heard of who blow stuff up and say, I'll do it again if you don't meet my demands? How many times has that happened?
I can't. I was going to try counting them out on my hands, but you know what? I would have to cut off my fingers to do so, because it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, but to answer the other question, my relationships with religious people, most of the people I know who are religious are folks who have decided to get into Wicca and witchcraft and stuff like that. I mean, I have a lot of goth friends. Most of my friends are goth, and they've gotten into the occult and things like that. Not even freaky occult stuff, they light candles and sit around in the nude worshiping some moon goddess or something,
I can get behind that.
They're really, really, really non-intrusive, and they look at what I do and they go, whatever, and I can look at what they do and go, whatever, because we're very live and let live.
Yes.
So no big deal. I think the most I have to deal with religious people who aren't protesting LGBT issues, say Westboro Baptist Church type people, would be relatives on my dad's side who are still Italian Catholic. And even they are pretty live and let live, I mean, they look at my lesbianism and even my cousin's lesbianism, because I have a cousin who's also a lesbian, and they're like, whatever, we're family, So no big deal, really. It's just the politicians, who I don't have to deal with personally, that are really the problem. It's personally, on a personal level, I don't have any real problem with religious people at all.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I don't think we're going to get any more questions in the chat room, because the chat room moderator just came in and told everybody to not show body parts. I won't be very graphic. And
he said nipples, vaginas, balls, and penises.
Yeah, all those parts. Don't show those on camera, apparently, because here on the show,
it's a global message. It wasn't directed at us.
No, it wasn't directed at us.
There is one other question from Wise Guy Eddie.
Okay, last question. Okay, there it is. I know some atheists, ex-Christians, that seem to prolong spirituality. What are your thoughts?
Longing for spirituality. I mean, I get what's being said there. Is longing for spirituality. I kind of get it. I mean, goodness knows if I watch the right movie, listen to the right music, I can feel that feeling. I think Christopher Hitchens would describe it as the feeling of the numinous. And
I can feel it within me.
Well, sure, and I've felt that before. I mean, there's no reason not to want that, as long as you recognize that there is no actual, at least no evidence for the supernatural in this world, no evidence for anything that exists beyond what science can prove. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love it, absolutely love it, if it turned out magic was real. If I could fly under my own power or use the force or any of that stuff, anything even remotely like that, cast fireballs from my hands or lightning from my fingertips, that would kick butt.
I know, I love your ending, is like your zzz.
Yeah, but as near as I can tell, that stuff doesn't exist. As much as I might wish it doesn't exist. So, as much as you might wish for spirituality, wishing doesn't make it so, and you're just going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, unless you're ultra rich and you say, I wish there was a hamburger in my hand right now, and then 5 guys will run up and throw a hamburger in your hand. So.
And to Blaze, to Dark Firebrand, no, you cannot have a cookie. The cookie is mine!
Dog has a question now.
Oh, does he? You have just...
Too low a midi-chlorian count, yes.
Good question. I want to know the answer to that one.
Where did you get your midi-chlorians counted, and how much did it cost you?
Right.
Actually, we do need to get going. Bionic Dance, I do want to thank you for putting up with all the little issues that we've had tonight. We don't normally have this many issues, but we used to have this drinking game here on the show, sort of, that if we had an issue, everybody would drink. With the technical issues we've had tonight, I think everybody in the chat room would either be passed out or dead from alcohol poisoning. But hey, it's part of the show. If we don't have a technical issue, Packard Pokes At just isn't the same. But I want to thank you for coming, and please come back and visit us anytime. Join us in the chat room, or just come to the webpage and shout around a little bit. We'd love to have you over there, and that's at facebook.com/Packard Pokes At, of course. All right, before we get out of here. And again, special thank you to Bionic Dance for showing up and spending some time with us. But if you want to contact us and ask us questions, because we like getting questions too, we're going to give you all that information right now.
Would you like to contact us? We can be reached 28 hours a day, 8 days a week as Packard Pokes At on Twitter, and by email at packardpokesat@gmail.com. Your host, Packard Sonic, and his very honored and crazy co-hosts with occasional guest hosts who enjoy your comments or suggestions. You can also listen to the show on iTunes, YouTube, Mixler Radio, and Stitcher Radio. Click the like button on Facebook/Packard Pokes At to join in the conversation. While you're there, don't forget to snap on the Focus on Photography group. Please rate, comment, subscribe, retweet, and repost the show wherever you can. It really helps us out. Please donate whatever you can afford to help keep the show running. Visit packardpokesat.wordpress.com for more information on this or any other episode. We hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening and for your support.
Joe, you out of breath from doing all that?
We gotta make Crystal do that again, because I'm starting to lose my mind.
You keep playing the same music with that too every time. I mean, I think you're in a rut, man.
It's like.
If you want to come to the live show, it's at vonlive.tv/Packard Pokes At Friday nights, 9 p.m. Come to the chat room, throw money, 20s, 50s, whatever. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, we just opened up a new store. It's at cafepress.com/Packard Pokes At. You can buy a lot of wonderful items there with the Packard Pokes At logo. We'll be working on some new logos and items for the stores.
Because you want to look at that shit when it's not 10 p.m. on Fridays.
That's right.
Are you importing all that to the WordPress site?
There'll be a link at packardpokesat.wordpress.com. It has a picture of a hat on the side, so if you want to help support the show, just buy a hat. You'll get something really neat and something you can wear and show you like the show. So, and it'll have the logo on there. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for showing up to the chat room and sticking around through all the little technical glitches we had tonight. And come again next Friday, and hopefully we'll have a little less issues to deal with. Anyway, this has been Packard Pokes At. We just poked at your news.
And that's a wrap.